You know when someone says their muscles are stiff, what does that actually mean? Well, in the world of medicine, it's not quite that simple. That stiffness, it could be rigidity or it could be spasticity. And believe me, they are two very different things. So today, we're going to unpack exactly what sets them apart and, most importantly, why it matters.
So you're dealing with stiff muscles, maybe some resistance when you try to move. Is it rigidity or is it spasticity? I mean, on the surface, they can feel kind of similar. But what's going on underneath? Well, their causes are just worlds apart. And knowing the difference, it's absolutely crucial for getting the right diagnosis.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with what they have in common. Then we'll properly introduce rigidity and spasticity one by one. After that, we'll put them right next to each other for a comparison. And then we'll briefly touch on one other type of muscle tension.
First up, let's find some common ground. What is the one thing that connects both of these conditions? What's the family root they both share?
That root, that common ground, is a condition called hypertonia. The best way to think about it is as a big umbrella term. Anything that involves abnormally high muscle tone falls under it. It's the reason for that feeling of stiffness and resistance. So, both rigidity and spasticity are just different types. You could even say different flavors of hypertonia.
Okay, so with that shared foundation of hypertonica in mind, let's zoom in on our first specific type. Let's meet rigidity, which I like to call the constant resistance.
The real key to understanding rigidity is knowing where it comes from. It all starts with a problem in a very specific part of the nervous system, the extrapyramidal system. You can think of this as its neurological home address, and it's in a completely different neighborhood than spasticity.
Now, rigidity actually has two distinct personalities. First, you've got what's called lead pipe rigidity. I mean, just imagine trying to bend a stiff metal pipe. The resistance is smooth, it's constant, it's there the whole way. But then you have cogwheel rigidity, which is totally different. It's this jerky, kind of stop and start resistance, almost like a clicking gear.
All right, so we've met rigidity, that constant resistance. Now let's get to know its sibling, spasticity, which, let me tell you, has a very, very different personality.
Right off the bat, spasticity comes from that different neurological neighborhood we mentioned earlier, the pyramidal system. And it's seen as a classic sign of what doctors call an upper motor neuron lesion, or UMN for short. So you can already see how the diagnostic paths for these two conditions are starting to really split apart.
The unique feel of spasticity is just captured perfectly by this description. The resistance is only there right at the beginning of the movement, and then if you keep pushing, it just disappears. It's not a constant fight at all. It's the strong pushback right at the start that then kind of just melts away.
And this whole phenomenon has a fantastic and really memorable name, clasp-knife spasticity. Seriously, think about opening an old-school pocket knife. You have to push really hard at first, and then suddenly it just snaps open with almost no effort. That's it. That initial, tough resistance, followed by a sudden release, that is the classic signature of spasticity.
So let's make sure we've got all these differences straight. It's time to put rigidity and spasticity right next to each other in a little family portrait, just to make the distinctions crystal clear.
And here it is, all laid out for us. You've got rigidity, its origin is the extrapyramidal system, and it feels either constant like that lead pipe or jerky like a cogwheel. And then you have spasticity. Its origin is the pyramidal system, and its sensation is that initial resistance that suddenly gives way, just like that clasp knife.
Now, just to complete the picture, there is one more type of hypertonia that our source mentions. You can think of this one as a distant cousin in the muscle tension family. This one is called hysterical hypertonia, and what makes it so unique is that the resistance isn't fixed at all. Instead, the muscle tension actually gets stronger the more effort someone applies to try and move the limb. It's a completely different mechanism at play here.
So to wrap this all up, here's a really simple three-step guide to keep in your back pocket. First, just remember they both fall under that big hypertonia umbrella. Second, identify the cause. Rigidity is extrapyramidal, spasticity is pyramidal. And third, feel the difference. Rigidity's resistance is constant, while spasticity's gives way. Simple as that.
And that leaves us with a final and maybe the most crucial question to think about. Now that we understand where they come from and how they behave, how does getting the diagnosis right, distinguishing between that stiff lead pipe and the snapping clasp knife, how does that fundamentally change a patient's entire course of treatment and therapy? It's a critical thought, and it really underscores why this whole distinction truly matters.